I'd like to get started this morning. We have a full agenda, and I welcome everyone to First Friday Breakfast Club. Reminder, everyone, please wear your mask when you're not eating or drinking. It's kind of hard to when you start going, but we appreciate it. And I can't wear it up here. I won't be able to see my screen, my comments, but I'm Byron Huff. I assumed the role of FFBC president this past February. My pronouns are he, him, and his. FFBC is an association of gay, bi, and trans men formed in 1996 and is a 501c3, making your contributions tax deductible. Since the formation of FFBC has raised more than $450,000 in scholarships that were awarded annually to Iowa high school seniors who have done significant things to reduce homophobia and educate about LGBTQ issues in their schools and communities. We've awarded $3,000 scholarships regardless of gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, or other protected characteristics. But we awarded 9 $4,500 scholarships in this past July due to the generosity of our donors. If you've not donated this year, I hope you will. You can make one-time or recurring, that's a new thing, donation on our website, ffbciowa.org, thanks to the technology funded by Brad Holland, Joe Rates, and Descendant Wealth Technology. We hope 2022 will allow us to present scholarships recipients with their award during the graduation ceremonies, which we were not able to do this year, because the strength of the scholarship program, aside from recognizing and rewarding significant and often courageous acts of the recipients, is the opportunity for FFBC to send a representative to the high school graduation ceremony throughout Iowa, often in front of an audience who thinks they've never seen a real gay person. There are new member forms at the registration desk where you can be added to our email list to update your information. We send 2 emails monthly, one to sign up for the meeting, and one has the newsletter. It comes from ffbciowa.org. So if you're not receiving those, check to make sure we have your correct email. If you've not read the November newsletter emailed on November 1st and available on our website, I would encourage you to read the articles we hope will be of interest to you. You can designate First Friday Breakfast Club as a beneficiary of United Way donations. And also Amazon has a program under Amazon Smiles, is a way of giving back to the community. And I run that, and I'm surprised how many products they say qualifies for Amazon Smiles. And so the donations are coming to us. We have a website, you'll find resource links. We continually are adding and updating. We archive newsletters, audio recordings, YouTube videos. Thanks to David Cotton, Nicholas Williams, Wade Peterson, and Joe Rates for all their work, keeping our website updated and bringing it into something we hope you will enjoy. Be sure and follow us also on Facebook and YouTube, where we are putting videos. We continually improve our social media presence. At this time, we'd like to give an opportunity for new attendees of FFBC to introduce themselves. If there's anyone. Welcome. Any others? Okay, well, if there's someone at your table that you don't know, introduce yourself and welcome everyone. We're happy you could attend this morning. If you didn't get all that, you can always reach out to our FFBC Iowa email, and we can get it to Jim. John Schmacker was awarded one of DSM Magazine's LGBTQ Legacy Award this year. The October newsletter had a great article covering Jim's well-deserved award, or John's well-deserved award, sorry, John, I'm getting that mixed up. I'd like to invite John up to make a few comments.
A few comments. Thank you, everybody. It was, of course, an honor to be recognized with that, even though it was pretty much about things I was doing 30 years ago, stuff I was doing. But, you know, history catches up. I actually, if you'll indulge me, I will quickly read the statement I gave at the event, because I know that if I try to talk about this off the cuff, I'd make an even bigger fool of myself. I don't know how many of you remember the first time you ever stepped inside a gay bar, but I'm guessing it's every man in the room. Well, okay. Okay. Uh, the first time I ever stepped inside a gay bar was in San Francisco in the final months of my Navy service. This was on the weekend of June 28th, 1969. On the other side of the country, the Stonewall Rebellion was happening in Greenwich Village. A lot has happened since then, and receiving this legacy award has caused me to think about it all. We've watched straight America try one thing after another, figuring out what to do about us, how to push us back into our closets, keep us invisible and separated from power. We watched Anita Bryant campaign against us and saw her hit in the face with a cream pie right here in Des Moines. We saw entrapment campaigns by the Polk County Sheriff. Des Moines police didn't always respect us. We saw campaigns to eliminate gay or lesbian school teachers. Don't ask, don't tell came and went. The Defense of Marriage Act came and went. Homophobic politicians and clergy, these all come and go. But the LGBT community, we will always be here. Throughout those years, I sought to make a difference. I got involved in the fledgling gay organizations that were starting up in the late 70s. In the 80s, I worked on HIV/AIDS policies for the state and for Des Moines. I served on the city's Human Rights Commission and got the rights ordinance expanded to include us. That took some doing, since the city council had appointed 2 outspokenly homophobic commissioners just to stop me. I started a chorus of gay men around the piano in my basement. That one folded after 8 years, but its successor, today's Des Moines Gay Men's Chorus, now in its 21st year, is bigger and more impressive than anything we could have imagined back then. I provided some leadership to a few organizations. I had a few editorials published, gave a few speeches at the state capitol. I got the yes/no question about homosexual behavior removed from the Iowa Department of Public Safety's employment application for state troopers. I confronted our then state epidemiologist after he said in print that AIDS won't be a problem in Iowa because we don't have any gay people here. Yeah, maybe we just shoot them, he said. Those were a few of the little skirmishes along my path of trying to make a difference. But what made the most difference, and what today I am most proud of, is the work I did educating Iowans. Gandhi said that prejudice does not yield to legislation. Prejudice yields only to education and patience. So I patiently educated students and faculty at Iowa State, Central and Simpson colleges, DMAC students and high school students, Drake journalism students, professional organizations, public school teachers and administrators, women inmates at Mitchellville. Sunday morning adult education classes at several local churches, the entire student bodies of AIB and Buena Vista University. I debated legislators and right-wing activists about marriage equality, and I beat them all. Nothing I have done would have been possible without the support of my friends. I have never thanked them enough, but I have always been grateful for their support. So my legacy is the hundreds of people I educated. I pretty much did that one classroom, one brain at a time. It wasn't always well received. I did get challenging questions. I did get hate mail. But 30 years later, I still have people approach me to to thank me for a class they sat in all those years ago and tell me that I had made a difference. The best I think that any of us can hope for is that we have made a difference for good. That is my legacy, and I am proud of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. I invited John to be a speaker at First Friday. He said he'd have to think about it. I think he's well on his way. He could expound on the years of advocacy that he's done. So hopefully we'll hear more from John in the future if I can talk him into it. The next copy deadline for the newsletter is the second Monday prior to the breakfast meeting, which makes it November 22nd. If you have something you'd like to share, send a copy to info@ffbciowa.org. Our next board meeting will be Tuesday, November 9th at 6 p.m. Let me know if you'd like to attend. I also want to let everyone know, and I wondered about it, Gateway does donate leftover food. So if there, sometimes it feels like, wow, there's a lot of food left. They don't let it go to waste. They don't throw it away. And this day and age, there are so many people that are in need. Okay, I chose to introduce our speaker this morning because I regularly do the same class at Power Life Yoga. And I asked Steve to come and speak. So our guest today is a guy who's worked as a news anchor and reporter at KCCI TV for 32 years. If you watch, you'll see him every day at 5, 6, and 10 o'clock. He says he's very fortunate to have had a long and successful career and to have worked with such great people in a fine organization. In short, he knows how lucky he is. What Steve is really proud of is his family. Somehow his wonderful wife, Lynn, has allowed him to hang around for 27 years. Yeah. Yeah, he has, this is written, Steve said, oh, that's a tongue-in-cheek joke if no one laughs, so. Together, they've raised 2 smart and beautiful daughters who care deeply about other people and who are dedicated to make the world a better place. And as a side note, I have personally met one of his daughters, Lucy, who taught at Power Life Yoga. She's back at school now. In an effort to make the world a better place, himself, Steve publicly revealed his lifelong struggle with depression about 3 years ago. Ever since, he's been doing speaking events to raise awareness and help others with mental health challenges. That's why he's here with us this morning. Please join me in welcoming Steve Karlin.
Well, before we get going here, I do feel honored, John, to be here on the day that they're honoring your advocacy, because you have made a positive difference in my life, and you have taught me a lot throughout the many interviews that we have done. So thank you very much. Let's hear one more time for John. He's just I put that on the floor because I don't want to spill it. When Byron asked me to do this a few months ago, I immediately said yes, because I speak about mental illness quite a lot, because I feel it's so important. But then I realized, as I was driving my car home from yoga, this is a 7 o'clock breakfast, and you get off work at 10:35. Wow, couldn't it be like a noon Taco Tuesday thing or a Friday night midnight snack thing? But no, I'm very happy to be here, and thank you very much for having me. And let's get on to the topic of mental health. So yeah, I am a 61-year-old guy, and I was very stubborn and stupid for 58 years of my life. Of course, when you're young and you have mental health problems, you don't know exactly what's going on, because of course you're kind of absorbing the world and you're trying to figure out your place in it. And there's so many things that you know, are occupying your mind, but you know, there's something that's just a little bit different about you, and you can't quite figure it out. And sometimes it manifests itself in, anger or maybe overreactions to things or whatever. And I didn't address my mental health problem, and I had some very early indications that I had a problem. My late teens, early 20s, I quit college. Neither one of my parents went to school. I quit college when I was 19, and my parents were devastated. And they're both depression babies, and they just couldn't understand why I quit college. And that threw me into my first really bad downturn where, I was considering suicide. I didn't know where I was going, what I was doing, and I didn't know the way out. Tried to seek help, and nobody seemed to be able to identify my problem. And what I did is I started running. I would come home from my horrible job of collecting loans for a high rate finance company, and I'd just put on my shoes and I'd go. And kind of like Forrest Gump, I ran my way out of my problems to a place where I could at least cope, and went back to college. And then went to Iowa State and ended up, long story short, in the career that I have. And kind of guided along, still had those episodes where I was, I approached every situation emotionally. And how does this impact me? And when I didn't like the feeling of a situation, I would look at people as an insecure person would. I would be lashing out and criticizing them where I should have been looking inside myself and trying to figure out what the problem was instead of figuring that everybody else was a problem. So I ended up getting married to a woman who is the nicest person in the world. My wife, and I know a few of you in this room know Dr. Lynn Rankin. She smiles when she's mad. Okay. And it's really kind of unnerving. And she comes from I come from a family of 6 cats. Okay. I mean, we're all going 6 different directions. My wife's family is like a TV family. Okay. They all get along. I've never heard anyone say anything critical about anybody else. And it just weird to me that, from this family where everybody, I mean, you had to have a sharp tongue in my house. You had to have a quick wit or you were going to be buried. I mean, that's just the way it was. It was very competitive and very critical in my house when I was a kid. And so that, kind of led to my problems with depression and anxiety. And, I kind of cruised along, married, we had a couple of kids, and then, my aspiration once I was at KCCI is I'm not saying anything bad about Kevin Cooney because I love Kevin Cooney. He's taught me a lot, but I wanted Kevin Cooney's job. Okay. And so when Kevin retired, nobody would say at the station, it's yours, but they would indicate, or that they wouldn't put it in a contract, in all likelihood, you're going to get it. But when I turned 51, they came to me and, I'm preparing myself for the evenings. And I'm a guy who, because of my depression and anxiety, I don't sleep well anyway. And so they said, we would like you to do the morning show because that's the only place in the area of television news where the audience and the revenues are growing. And we need to grow that show. And we think you're the guy to do it, which sounds very flattering until you realize you have to get up at 2:30 in the morning. That was the worst thing for a depressive person. I mean, I basically didn't sleep for 4 years. And the thoughts of suicide became more frequent and more real. I mean, I could be driving down the road, I'd look at a bridge above and I'd think, man, I just want to plow into that thing. Because if any of you have dealt with depression before, the way I describe my depression is it's like a lead overcoat. Okay. When it comes on, oh, you know, it's physical, it hurts, it's heavy. You're carrying this around. It impacts everything you do, everything you say. And in a job like mine, where, you know, if I'm not interested in my job, how in the world can you guys be interested in watching what I'm presenting? Okay, so I learned how to mask it pretty well. But even through that, as my wife is saying, Steve, you're depressed. You need to get help. Lynn, I can work my way through this. Well, you know, then I'm being combative with my wife. I'm being verbally and mentally abusive to my wife and my children. Thankfully, I never became physically abusive to them. But, you know, and I'm throwing out this vibe, okay? Like I could suck all the air out of this room. I mean, when I was Mr. Depressed, you would know I was in this room. Okay. This is what people have told me since I have gotten therapy. So what turned the tide is we have two girls. Maisie's the oldest. She's now 24. Lucy is our youngest at 21. And they are both incredibly intuitive and have great emotional maturity. And for some reason, I listened to them. And Maisie has always been somewhat anxious as a person. But she is someone who goes straight at those anxieties and tries to conquer them, and in many cases has. Well, she wondered why, when she was at Central Academy downtown, it would take her 4 and 5 hours to do all of her homework, when everybody else could get it done in an hour or two. Well, she has ADD. Okay. So she went to a therapist and was diagnosed and came home. And now I know that she had a conversation with her mother saying, I think dad has ADD, and I think it'd be good for dad to see this therapist. This at this time is an 18-year-old kid saying, you know, maybe we could get something done about this depression thing, you know. Smart kid. And so I go off to this therapist, and the therapist says, yeah, not only do you have ADD, but you have depression too. And that made me confront it. Okay. So initial therapy was Adderall, which sounds, you know, counterintuitive for somebody with ADD. And the therapist said, not only will it help your ADD, it will help your depression, which it lifts your mood. And so I had been about 3 months into this Adderall therapy when Len and I, and I'm sorry if you've already read this story, and you know, the Blue Cross Blue Shield thing that came out a few months ago, or have heard me say this before, but it was a revelation. Lynn and I were going through these huge tubs, those Tupperware tubs of family pictures and cards that the kids had given us and drawings and all that. And we're trying to, my wife is very organized and trying to, you know, sort all this stuff out and get it in some kind of chronological order and put it in books. Well, I'm looking at all of these pictures of this happy family. Okay. At that point, 24 years of marriage, 2 great kids. And I'm looking at this stuff and I just began to sob. I cried. I don't know how long it was. It seemed forever. I cried in a way that I haven't cried since I was a child, because I looked at those faces. I looked at those smiles. I looked at those innocent eyes, and I include my wife in that, not just the kids. I include my wife in having a pair of those innocent eyes, because this woman when she married me, had no idea exactly what she was getting into, and she has never wavered. So that led me to pick up my phone and excuse me, I'm not the kind of person who throws this kind of stuff out publicly, but I think it's the best decision I've ever made with regard to Facebook. And there are a lot of bad decisions you can make on Facebook, but this was the best one I ever made. I basically told that story and how ashamed I felt, and how just getting therapy had set me on a new path and excuse me, and shown me possibilities for my life and my happiness that I had never thought of before. Excuse me. And so that led to a lot of people responding and saying, people who had far worse problems than I do, telling me their stories. I have had many, many people come up to me since I did that, and I speak regularly at the NAMI walk in September. I speak with any group that asks me, but I had a couple of people come up to me at that and say, "You saved my life." Wasn't an intention of mine, but that's pretty powerful. So where I am now is, yes, I've continued on the drug therapy, but then a couple of months after, the Facebook posting, I started talk therapy, and had always kind of considered that to be something that I wasn't really interested in, because I didn't feel like sitting around like a lot of people do and spilling my guts. And I thought, I'm just kind of, I'm going to end up feeling sorry for myself. And but there are triggers in my life, and through the therapy, there are reasons for me being the way I am. And what the therapy did was help expose those, help me realize my role in those. And in many cases, my role was just being a bystander and being impacted by those things, and accepting the fact that some things are my fault, but a lot of things are not my fault. This is just the way I'm hardwired. And I'm hardwired because, long story short, because of the way I was raised. Those two Depression era people who were very successful in everyday life, what is generally considered successful, but who were very insecure because of their my mother came from a very, very poor family. My father never had a college education and rose through the banking industry, and had to fight for everything that he got, which made him very insecure, and a very critical household as a result. And so that was me. And I had to work my way through this worldview of, what every interaction means to me. Okay. Work through the emotions surrounding that. Try to decide what my defensive position is going to be and how I'm going to fight my way through this. And therapy taught me that not everything's a fight. Not everything's about you. Okay. I've done pretty well in my line of work. It made me realize that I'm 61, I'm close to retirement. I don't have any more turf to fight for. Okay. But, for such a long time, I was after something that I guess a satisfaction through doing that I really needed to find through just thinking. just considering to live in the moment. I was talking with Matt here before. I now know what that means. I can throw all that noise away and I can just live in the moment. And I can deal with every person and every situation for what it is at that moment, instead of trying to think through 1,000 different steps and how I'm going to win. Okay. So my suggestion to you all is this. You, because you have the added pressure of sexual orientation and trying to find out exactly who you are in that realm, if you also feel depressed, I mean, there have got to be some of the strongest people in the world right here. Okay. I mean, if you can fight through that, and maybe whatever depression or mental health issues you may have as a result of that or other things in your life, I mean, you should be able to walk through the world with the confidence that can conquer anything. Okay. And man, I mean, I just respect that so much, because life is a journey, and the best thing, which always sounds so trite and so cliche, but it's true. And my therapist, very first day, said, "What do you want out of this?" And I said, "Happiness, like anybody else would." And she said, "You don't want happiness. You want contentment. You want contentment." So what do you mean? She said, "You want to be content with who you are, where you are, what you have, the wonderful life that you have." And it really made me take a step back and look at all of the great things I have in my life, all the wonderful friends I have, and just say, you made it. You know, there's nothing to fight for. That other stuff you used to be so worried about, you can't take that with you. You know, your time on earth is going to end one day, and the only thing you're going to have is what people remember of you as a person. And since I've been set on that path, I'm happy. So that's my message today. If you have not, if you think you need therapy and you have not considered it because you're stubborn, or maybe like me, a little bit stupid, do it not only for the other people in your life, do it for yourself, because happiness is there. But at least in my experience, it comes through contentment. So that's my story. And Byron told me to leave time for questions. If anybody has any questions, I would be happy to answer them. I'm sorry, it's been a little bit of a rambling presentation this morning, but this is early for me. Okay, so I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any. Yes, sir.
So once you were more public, how did your coworkers react?
It's interesting. My superiors said nothing, which didn't surprise me. I think it's one of those things where you know, they're always thinking liability, right? So if we don't address it, then we don't have to deal with it in any way, which is fine. That's fine. I totally get that. But my coworkers, my peers, the people who are kind of, I work with every day, the people who are on the same level as me, have been very supportive. In fact, you know, there have been some who have taken me aside and we've talked about their problems, and who have wanted advice on therapists and things of that nature. So it's been very good in that way. I still receive email all the time about from people who have problems. And like I say, much worse problems than I have, who are still battling. And, I do what I can to help them and to buoy their spirit so that hopefully they can fight their way through. So thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
So I'm a financial advisor. So my question is, your employer is a great employer. Is there, monies, does your insurance plan help you with some of those costs for that therapy?
They do have a very good, our company, our station is owned by the Hearst Corporation, big company. And they do have in-house teletherapy. I started my therapy before they started that program. Hearst is incredibly progressive. They do a lot of wonderful things on a lot of fronts. And I think I would have taken advantage of that if it would have been available right away. But, I'm Mr. Health Savings Account. And so I just pay for it out of that. Yeah. But thank you. That's a good question. Anybody else? Yes.
So my father didn't quit smoking until my daughter. So my sister said, "Dad, are you gonna die of lung cancer like Grandpa did? Do you think you would have taken the step if your daughter hadn't?"
I think that day may have come. I do. My deep depressions were pretty bad. I don't know, it's hard to say. It may have, but the thing that always came to mind, especially during that real rocky period when I was doing the morning show where, go on the air at 4:30 and you have to be happy. Those are the best 2.5 hours of my day. What came into my mind was my kids. And that has been another real leveler for me is, when you consider doing something like that, what's going to happen to the people who are left behind? Do I want Maisie and Lucy to be the children of a father who died by suicide and have to deal with that stigma for the rest of their lives? The thought of that, that almost brings tears to my eyes. Yeah, there have been a lot of good things that have come out of me deciding to talk about this, and I'm happy about that, and I'm proud that I've been able to help some people, and I hope to continue to help people. Yeah, I think that's a wonderful point because that's exactly right. Just need to know that everybody out there is kind of struggling or questioning in their own way, about who they are in the world. I think that's great. Thank you very much. Yes.
When the depression was at its worst, were you always able to continue to do your job? Was that sort of like flipping a switch?
Yes.
Now I'm
Yeah.
happy,
Yeah.
TV personality?
And I think that was what was most surprising to people when they read the Facebook post and, and when they see me speak afterward, they're like, you're the happy guy, yeah, it was exactly that. It was like flipping on a switch. And when I say it was my best 2.5 hours every day, it was, okay. Because I would immediately go home as soon as we were done at 7 o'clock, and my boss knew. I told him I was having difficulties. You got to get me off this shift. You got to get me off this shift. And they can't, in TV, you can't make quick changes. And my next move was into the main anchor chair, and they weren't going to force Kevin out. They're going to let Kevin decide, and rightfully so. He'd earned that. But yeah, so I just I faked it, and I look back on that now. It's like, I have no idea how I did that, but I guess that's the way I've been living the majority of my life ever since I've known that I've had depression. You don't walk into social situations and not be able to, at least slide into a different gear, just be able to go to a party or a dinner or something like that when you're depressed. So yeah, I still think about that and I just like, wow, you're a pretty weird dude. Anybody else? Okay. Well, I thank you very much for listening to me today. Once again, I apologize for rambling, but my thoughts are not congealing the way I like them to. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. If any of you read the newsletter, you'll understand I'm also a person that has struggles with depression, and it doesn't go away. It's just something you deal with. It happened when I was young, struggling as a young teen to come out, and I didn't know what coming out was because I didn't know I was gay. I didn't even know that gay was a possibility because I lived in the country and wasn't exposed to anything like that. So I knew there was something that was different about me, and I didn't have anyone. I felt I didn't have anyone to talk to, and that's when you need to talk to someone. But our country has a serious mental health problem. There's a severe lack of resources, as well as the stigma that applies to those who may need or seek care. I feel that way living downtown and seeing a lot of the homeless people, and there are many reasons why they're homeless, but in many cases you can see there's a mental health issue and why there's nothing available, or it seems like there's nothing available to help them. And it's not getting better. I don't see it getting better right now, and it's sad, very sad. So on a happier note, upcoming speakers. December 3rd, we'll have William Joensen. I don't know if I'm saying his last name right. He serves as a bishop of the Diocese of Des Moines. So him coming to speak means we'll add, actually, this will be the third bishop that has spoken here. Thanks to Jonathan. He's not here to take that, but he personally met with the bishop and talked him into coming to speak. January 7th will be Lauren Olson. He has an award-winning book finally out, and a new book coming out soon, No More Neckties. February 4th will be Edward Kelly, who had an opinion piece in the Des Moines Register on September 5th of this year titled My Journey from an Anti-Gay Activist to LGBTQ Ally. There is a link, I think, on our website, right? Yeah, to that article. March 4th will be Mark Babcock, who sang with Leonard Bernstein and Robert Shaw and has performed at Carnegie Hall and New York Philharmonic. We'll speak about playing the carillon at St. Paul's Episcopal Church. See our website for a link to that article. April 1st will be David Miglin. He's a member of the Broadlawns Medical Center Board and recently completed his mission of visiting every incorporated city, town in the state of Iowa. He's also involved in the Iowa Stage Theater Company. May 6th, I can't announce yet, but I'm hoping it'll come soon. June 4th, our annual scholarship award ceremony will be Becky Smith, who was recently appointed as executive director of Iowa Safe Schools. And that is all we have on the books, but that's pretty good. We have half the year almost booked, so I feel good about it. See our website for more detail on upcoming speakers. Also welcome anyone who has potential speakers. We're always open to that. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful weekend. We're now adjourned.